What's up, MLS Fantasy fans? We are back on the starting lineup for Week 27 with Andrew Wiebe. I'm Jason Saghini. Don't worry, I am here to fix all he has done to your poor fantasy team. Andrew, last week you used your wild card to create a team. How'd that go for you?
Well, in a word, it was average. It was exactly average. 56 points, which was the round average from round 26. But look, this was for the long haul. Don't expect those dividends to return immediately. We've got a double week this week. We're bringing in those Chivas USA players. Going to see how they go. Didn't make any changes. We'll see how this week goes, and then we'll just let Wiebe's wild card fade right off into oblivion. Hopefully some of those moves work out for you. I've picked up some players too, and hey, I captained Blas Perez again, so maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment. Who knows?
All right, a lot going on here this week. We have 4 teams that are playing 2 games: Real Salt Lake, Portland, Chivas, and Dallas. So there's a lot to talk about around those teams, which players we like, which players we don't. We're going to start out this show, though, with an O Captain, My Captain. It's been a little while, Andrew. Let's see who we like this week as our point getters. When I look for a captain this week, I'm only looking at 2 teams: Portland Timbers and Real Salt Lake. And at number 4 on my list is Rodney Wallace. Remember, he's a defender in the game, but he plays on the wing. He gets forward in attack. 6 points for a goal from him, and extra bonus points if Portland gets a shutout. I don't necessarily see them getting a shutout in both games, but they'll be close. So 1 shutout, 1 goal is huge points for Rodney Wallace. Moving on, Alvaro Saborio for Real Salt Lake. Now here, you're relying on him to score a goal, but he has 2 games to do it. I think he could get 1 or potentially 2 throughout the course of the week. Now, next on my list is Diego Valeri. He's the creator for the Portland Timbers. I don't think they're going to be shut out in either game this week, so he will be active and can pick up assists or potentially goals. Lastly, you're looking at Javier Morales. For me, Morales is the guy to go with. His first game against Portland, again, I think there'll be goals scored by both teams most likely. He's, of course, going to be involved. But that second game at home against Columbus, who have been hot lately, but definitely not all there defensively, I think Salt Lake gets on the board for a couple goals against Columbus. Morales will have a big stake in that.
Well, as usual, Jason and I disagree on a few things. We'll start at number 4 on my list, Diego Valeri of the Portland Timbers. The only reason he's not higher, that difficult schedule. RSL coming to town and then at Seattle. I think he'll be productive, but you have better choices out there. At number 3, Javier Morales. If you've been an owner of Javi lately, myself included, you've wondered, where is the production? When is he going to get going again? I think this week is as good a time as any. As Jason mentioned, that second game home against Columbus, that's a great opportunity for him to feed Saborio. Number 2 and number 1, I'm going to Dallas. I'm going against Jason on this one. At number 2, Matt Hedges. Yes, the goals have been flowing for the other team against Dallas recently, but look, Hedges has still been productive. He's still getting points. He's a goal threat, and if he does manage to get a shutout in one of these 2 games, that's big points for you. And then number 1, I captained him last week with Wiebe's wild cards. That didn't really work out for me, but I'm going back to the well. He's got 2 more chances, a favorable schedule with Chivas on the road, and then San Jose. I think Blas Perez gets you multiple goals and big points in round 27.
Well, I feel like we could take a few minutes here to talk about how bad Andrew's first 2 picks were there in O Captain, My Captain. But instead, we'll get to it in the questions from the fans. First question coming in, Jordan Christensen says, how do you know when to pick up or drop a striker, Andrew?
Well, it comes down to 2 tenets. That's form and upcoming schedule. When you start to see a guy scoring, say Jack McInerney earlier in the year, it's time to jump on the bandwagon and see if you can ride that, be one of the ones to reap the rewards. The other thing is the opponents. If you see Chivas USA, DC United, Toronto FC in that upcoming schedule, probably guys you can take a chance on.
Yeah, I mean, you want to look right now at Chris Wondolowski. I'm telling you on this show, this is how you know. You watch this show, we'll help you out. Chris Wondolowski finishes every season strong, and he's already started that now. He's got a bunch of goals in the last few weeks. We expect that to continue throughout the rest of the season. Get him on your fantasy team if you haven't already. Here's another question coming in about a forward. Is Blas Perez worth a shot? That question coming from Dean. Of course, Perez with 2 games this week starting at Chivas. In the second game, they are home to San Jose.
Yeah, well, I made my opinion known already. I think he is worth a shot. I think he's going to have big points. The one thing that you have to be prepared for with Blas Perez, they've got a bye in round 28. So if you're not set up to deal with that, he's probably not a guy you want to pick up at this time. Also, some road games after that. So You've got to have faith in him. I do. It all comes down to your personal decision-making now.
One thing that Andrew hasn't mentioned, and I'll mention it, it's something that puts a little bit of a cloud around Blas Perez. He's on yellow card warning. He scores against Chivas USA, takes his jersey off and spins it around his head. He's suspended for the next game. Now,
please, Blas, do not do that.
I would expect that not to happen, being that he's on yellow card warning, but you have to remember, that game could get chippy. He picks up a yellow card. He's only playing one game that week. Something to look out for. Moving on, Ricky Cook says, since Chivas has 2 home games this round, is Dan Kennedy a good player to pick up over the other keepers who are playing 2 matches?
Well, I think Dan Kennedy is a great shot. Actually, him and Nick Raimondo, second choices for me, and Kennedy probably getting the nod because he's so much cheaper. But number 1, I think, is Raul Fernandez. I've already mentioned it. Maybe I put too much faith in this Dallas team over the course of this week, but I think with that schedule at Chivas and San Jose at home, he's got a great chance to get 1, if not 2 shutouts.
We should talk about this stuff before we get on the show, Andrew, because I actually disagree with you big time here.
Well, we knew that was going to happen.
For me, it's Nick Raimondo as your number 1 choice, and then Donovan Ricketts and Dan Kennedy for me are a toss-up. Raul Fernandez for me is last on this list, and here's why. First, the game at Chivas USA, I'm not sure that's as easy anymore as it was a few weeks ago. Chivas is starting to do things. I like Eric Torres a lot. He's in my starting lineup this week. I expect them to get some goals against this Dallas team. The other thing is, in their second game, they have San Jose coming to town, and we've seen all season Raul Fernandez a little bit dicey when balls are sent into the box. That is exactly what San Jose is going to do to him. He's going to have Clarence Goodson, Victor Bernardez, Steven Lenhart, Alan Gordon crashing in on him. I think there's trouble for Dallas in that game against San Jose, and that does not mean good things for Raul Fernandez. We will see which one of us is correct.
So what this comes down to is Team Saghini or Team Wiebe. Let us know, comment section, who you got. Come on, right now.
I'm assuming it's going to be Team Saghini. If you need to spell that, it's Saghini. Moving on, our final fan question comes in from Bert Lands, and he says, is it time to drop Colorado Rapids players? They have a bye week this week and then a tough schedule coming up. Away to Kansas City, away to LA, home to Dallas. What do you make of this team right now?
Well, I think I split them up into 2 groups. One group to keep an eye on and one group to hold on to. The one to keep an eye on really revolves around that attack. We just don't know who's going to be in the lineup. They have played very, very well, but they have new pieces. Gabriel Torres, a DP, you expect him to play. Vicente Sanchez already producing for them in limited minutes in just 2 games. And then you have Deshaun Brown. He's done it all season long. Edson Buttle, where does he fit in? Those guys are wait and sees. Probably ones you stick around, see who actually earns that starting spot, and then go from there. The other side of the coin are the bargains on Colorado. Your Chris Klutz, Clint Irwins, Dylan Powers. I think those are guys you hold on to, guys that will continue to be productive and just don't have a big cap hit. It's going to be hard to find like for like as far as value elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Nathan Sturgis a lot on this show. I think he's a player who's kind of dropped off a little in his productivity. Dylan Powers is one I might be afraid of with Rivero coming back, but Clute and Irwin, for me, you leave them on the team. They're cheap guys who are scoring points for you. One more thing before we go, we should definitely mention this. The Fantasy Cup is coming up. It's a second chance for a lot of owners who maybe aren't doing well in their league. You get in with your score in week 28. That's all that matters. Build up to week 28. Score well, and you're in.
Yeah, and you said second chance. It could be your first chance. Maybe this is the first time watching the show. You don't have a team. Sign up. Get yourself in the running for prizes. About 16,400 of you will be in that. And then it's just single elimination all the way down to the end, as Jason said. Maybe it's your first chance. Maybe it's time to enter a team. Maybe you stumbled on us by accident. Either way, be ready for week 28. That's when it all comes down.
All right, that's all we have for starting lineup this week. We'll be back next Thursday. Enjoy the games this weekend, and good luck to you all.